Now, will we see Magnus go for the same approach? Well, we see.
What about those vegan sharks? What about them? No?
No.
They don't have any of those?
No, they don't. And talking about vegan sharks, we have a really interesting opening. It's a
Sicilian.
It's a C3 Sicilian, which is a renowned drawing weapon.
Yeah, especially when Magnus needs a draw, he often plays the Alpin, gets a slightly better position, outplays his opponent, doesn't have any trouble. So Magnus wants to make sure he's always a little bit better, doesn't want any problems, plays a solid line, and Nihal has to mix it up somehow. But it's not easy to do in such a solid line.
Like this is literally the most solid response to the particular Sicilian. And here white tends to develop the bishop, the dark squared bishop. You can also chase away the queen. You can also just make some little nifty move on the right, just to advance the h-pawn 1 square.
Are you saying h4, h5, h6? No, you're saying h3.
No.
Yeah.
You gotta lock in, right? Let the complications come to Magnus here. You don't need to do anything crazy. Magnus just thinking about what he should play. I mean, he knows this position. Many moves possible. And this is the thing with Magnus. I remember that he just knows his openings inside out. And okay, he goes for chasing away the queen. One of the things, though, is when you only need a draw, it's very important that you don't just play for the draw, because then you start taking negative decisions and you could find yourself that little bit worse. Not easy to be when, you know, there's a person chasing you with a knife. But there's the bishop coming out. I'm expecting the queen to stand up, say, hey, you make the trade on my own terms.
I'm hoping for crazy moves like d5, but I know that they won't happen. Magnus is going to keep the tiny advantage, play safe, solid. The bishop on c8 isn't very good for Nihal. That's what Magnus is banking on, to give himself a slight advantage. White doesn't have very much, but on the other hand, White has very few losing chances. That's what Magnus is going for. A position that's simple, where he's slightly better, where he can play to his strengths, and not give his opponent any winning chances.
He's going to be clinical, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's going to lift
Magnus
up the queen, right? He's going to go and put the queen in the center and say, how about we take it into a pure endgame? Yeah,
you were right as usual, Yovi.
No, dear. This is not looking good for Nihal. He knows he needs to win, and this is such a difficult position to win with the black pieces. Not only are you lagging behind in development, but the position is relatively simple. And the thing is, though, you have to keep the queens on the board if you want any.
Yeah, I think Nihal has to play queen e7 or queen c7. He can't really afford to trade queens and go into a tiny worse endgame where White has the pawn majority on the queen side.
And Nihal knows it. This has not been the way forward. And he does play the most principled move, support the queen. And if Magnus again wants to be clinical, he just trades off queens. And that's exactly what he does. He just wants that draw. Moves that rook to the center. Now I'm expecting maybe some solidification on the left side with some pawns. Make it all beautiful, compact. You can also try and take control with the rooks on the D line. There's only one open line, but such a difficult position, actually.
Yeah, black has to win. That's a tough position with either color if you have to win, but especially with black with the two isolated queenside pawns. Magnus going to trade pieces, bishop f3, knight e4, trade everything, no pieces on the board, wants to put his knight on a5. If black plays a5, that gives white the b5 square for his knight. The knight can go to d6. The knight can just sit on a5. That's probably why Magnus played knight b3.
Yeah. And actually, I like the way that Magnus has played it. Okay, he was given a question mark, but this is looking good. You know, put the knight on the edge, have it look at the bishop. I did wonder why we didn't see knight takes bishop, but Magnus, maybe he's the one playing for more.
Yeah, Magnus wants to play b4 at some point and get a past b pawn.
Yeah, he has to do it. He goes for the pawn advance. I think he senses that maybe he can go for more. He'll try and make it a clean sweep.
Yeah, I think Magnus wants 3-0.
Yeah, but this is good news for Nihal, because Magnus could have played this position in a variety of ways, which would have killed any energy. And as it stands, well, maybe he's got a chance. The rook lifts up, and Nihal, the only way that I can see Nihal even trying to win is just trying to do something on the right side of the board. Just take as much space as possible with the pawns, and then hope for the best.
Not easy for Nihal to get winning chances here. He does as you say, plays g5, getting some space.
Okay, and now what next for Magnus? Is he gonna start advancing? No, he kicks the bishop back. Bishop has to go backwards rather, all the way. And now this is Magnus's plan. But I think this is really good news that Magnus is trying to unbalance things. He's not playing just shut the position down. So decision time now.
Yeah, Magnus is gaining space on the queen side. Now Magnus has 2 passed pawns. Black has 1 passed pawn. Knight on b6 is an excellent blockader. Black has access to the d5 square. The engine actually prefers black because white's passed pawns aren't super dangerous yet. We're still in the drawing zone, but Nihal still has some chances to win.
Yeah, and some good strategy there from Magnus, saying that knight was a fantastic blockader. Let's swap it off. And Nihal said, no. That knight is going to attack the rook. Rook, where is it going to go, actually? Because I thought that it could just double up alongside its partner and start giving some checks. But this will come at the cost of the pawn. Okay, so he moves his rook 1 square, just prevents the black knight from
going to
infiltrating.
C3. Yeah.
Okay, but then now Nihal can start taking over, right? The bishop can come into the middle.
I thought he'd play bishop to d5. Now if white plays knight e3, Nihal has bishop b3. Magnus not happy at all. Doesn't like the looks of bishop d5. Magnus shaking his head. Nihal's making a comeback this game. This match is not over.
Yeah, I think Magnus just was like, I can draw this game in any way possible. And now it's not so easy, as we see. The rook doubling up. You still can't take the pawn because there is a discovered attack with the bishop. So you can't do that. But there are other ways that you can slowly improve your position.
Yeah, this is the best position Nihal's had the whole match. The engine says he's slightly better. Pawns are asymmetric. Both sides have chances. If Magnus doesn't watch out, he could lose his b5 pawn. Then he's in a lot of trouble. So Nihal still has chances. Knight e3, defending the b pawn with the bishop and putting pressure on black's position.
Yeah, that is a good move. In comes the bishop. Where are you going to go with the rook? You have to move. And now, maybe it's time to get active with your own pawns and try and trouble Magnus. Push the c-pawn.
c4 is explosive, as I like to say.
Does it work? I mean,
I don't know if it works, but it's explosive.
Okay, well, it's on the board.
He played it, so he must have thought it worked. When you suggest moves, Yovi, they play them. I'm not sure that their headsets are working.
A little nervous laughter there. No, I don't think they're listening to us. I'm not sure that would be a good idea.
No, I think if they were listening, there'd be more laughter.
Yeah, well, that move has certainly come as a surprise to Magnus. Okay, big question is, I didn't do the maths, and there are 3 attackers, and there's only 2 defenders, so you can take the pawn, but then you'd have to work out what happens if there is a pin in place, because black could double up. And one of the things about this new Indian generation is that they're so good with calculation. It's like a second language to them. It's like they learn how to speak, how to write, and then they learn how to calculate.
Yeah. The problem is if you don't take the pawn on c4, the b5 pawn is loose. Then black will be a pawn ahead. So Magnus, getting outplayed this game, realizes he's a little bit worse and has to fight for the draw now. Magnus with a huge time disadvantage, the biggest of the match, down over 2 minutes. And the heart rates are the same. Both players are still pretty calm, but you can see Magnus is unhappy with the way the game is unfolding.
Yeah, this is a critical moment because the big question is, can white capture the pawn in the middle, right? Because there's a lot of things happening. Because one of the things is that we were talking about that there's a pin in town. So if you capture bishop takes pawn, if we can just put that up.
Yeah, what happens if I pin then white has an amazing move here, which I never would see, and that's knight d5 check.
Wow. Wow.
And the idea is if you take, I play rook e1 check, and bishop takes b3. Thanks, engine. You helped me out there.
Okay, well, hang on a second, because what is happening on our screens? Let's go to the game, because we see bishop takes pawn being played. Okay, so now Nihal has to be super careful. You cannot double up on the C line.
No, knight d5 is an amazing resource, which I'm sure both players see, just I didn't see it. I wouldn't see it either. I would double rooks. I would miss knight d5 check.
Exactly.
That's too complicated a tactic for me.
It's so easy to miss that beautiful resource. And Nihal thinking, he's got a lot of time on the clock, so he has two alternatives. The knight can drop back, target the bishop, in which case Magnus will have to answer some questions, like how is he going to play this? We might even have to lose material. But one thing for sure...
knight b6 is definitely the engine move.
Yep. But one thing for sure is you can't double up. You can't play the most natural move on the board, because that will lose. And we see knight drops back, and now it's a big question. How is Magnus going to defend his bishop? He moves the rook, and now you just have to go bishop takes bishop.
Yeah, then Magnus is going to pin the bishop, and then black's going to be a piece up temporarily until Magnus plays a4, a5, and the engine says it's about equal. Looks like Magnus has escaped the difficulties by taking a long time and taking that pawn that wasn't really poisoned on c4, and it looks like Magnus is on his way to drawing the game. Unless something crazy happens in the next few minutes and somebody blunders, it seems like a draw is a fair result. And, well, Nihal had chances this game, but Magnus defended properly. He's not going to be happy with the way the game ended. I'm sure he wants to get an advantage and win 3-0, but he'll be happy to have won the match.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Whether it's 2.5 or 3, it doesn't matter. The main thing is to get the job done.
And I'll show you the main line the engine is giving. Bishop c4, rook c2, rook c8, a4. White wants to play a5, and black can't really hang on to his extra piece. So the engine says king d6, takes, and this position should end in a draw. Knight takes c2, equal material. Both sides have 4 pawns. And the engine says nobody's better. We'll see if that's what happens. So far, they haven't done that. Nihal actually doesn't want to draw, so he has to play differently.
Yeah, and he's actually taken with the rook instead. So after that happened, so this meant that we see this particular position where we have that imbalance again, where Magnus has the rook and Nihal has the 2 minor pieces. And
yeah, if you're forced to win, this is a better way for Nihal to play.
Exactly.
Rather than that drawn endgame. Both sides could win here. Although Magnus is used to promoting his pawns to a queen based on what we saw the previous 2 games.
Right.
Magnus likes his fast pawns.
So now what's super important for Nihal, if he wants to win, is he has to control the advance of those white pawns. So he has to tuck his rook into the corner, prevent the advance, and then what you do is once you've stopped them from moving forward, then you start to pile up the pressure, because that's the step 1. That's exactly what he needs to do. And okay, Magnus defending, and the point is that when you do the maths, black has 3 pieces, white only has 2. So there we're seeing Magnus trying to just try to maximize the power of his rooks. The way to do that is to open up lines. It's still really complicated position here, because black's rook tied to the corner, tied to stop that pawn from advancing, and now what to do next?
The engine slightly prefers white. I'm sorry, black, I should say. I know the colors. Because black has 2 pieces for a rook. White has those advanced pawns, which black just blockaded. And Magnus is going to advance his king e3, d4, c5. And eventually black is going to have to take on a4. Magnus plays g4, which weakens the f pawn. I don't like g4. I'm not sure why Magnus played that. That seems very risky, weakening the f3 pawn. Now the engine says Nihal has good winning chances.
Yeah, and it's all based on the fact that that pawn is weak, because now you can grab that pawn on a4. Now you can make the trade, because guess what? That bishop, that beautiful bishop in the center, is pointing at the pawn, and now the white king is just left behind. And it's going to happen. But this wasn't the way forward. This was not the way he had to capture with the rook. That knight had to be firmly blockaded, and now black, it's not enough.
It's still better for black. I'll still take black in this position. Still has some winning chances. Taking the f-pawn, and he can defend his f-pawn with his rook. Black has winning chances with accurate play, which is easy for me to say with 3 minutes left. Magnus should be able to draw, but not easy to play accurately in this position.
No.
Magnus plays the way I wouldn't play. The engine loves it, moving the king away from the pawns. Likes the king on d2. Magnus defending his g-pawn with his rook, attacking the f-pawn with his other rook, and says, what are you going to do? I'm defending everything. A drawn position, Nihal's better, but with more time on the clock, Magnus should be able to draw this position.
Absolutely, and so instructive. The king moves away from the heart of the action in order to try and force off a trade of rooks. And then the whole thing is that that rook goes all the way to the first row. You can maybe even keep on harassing it and see what happens next. But wow, 1 minute, 14 seconds for Nihal, and he has to put the pressure on white. One thing for sure, I was going to say you want to be keeping those rooks, but instead he's going to run with the king, just start advancing the pawns. In comes the king, stage one, and now he's going to, you can't take the pawn, so you have to start advancing.
Yeah, and this is just a known drawn book endgame. Magnus knows how to draw this. Black has some winning chances, but with accurate play, it's a draw. Magnus doesn't look super concerned.
No, he doesn't look that concerned at all. Look at that. And now he's going to stop the pawn advancing. And every time that bishop moves away, he's going to give a check to the king. You can do it now. Check the king. That has been the formula. And if you go back with the king, up comes the king on the dark squares, and it's a draw. And with that, Magnus Carlsen is in the semi-finals.
That score is very familiar. We saw that score last year with the same opponent.
Exactly, in an insane, commanding fashion. Just showing us why he's the world number one on every move. You know, this game had its adventures. Nihal perhaps had some opportunities to press a little bit harder, but in the end, Magnus Carlsen is the fair winner.
Yeah, I don't think Magnus is going to be too happy with that game, but sometimes when you're wrapping it up, things don't go as you plan, but he still got the job done in the end, even without playing his best chess.